So Myers-Briggs is based upon Carl Jung's theory of psychological types. That's what forms the foundation. Mother-daughter team Isabel Myers, who was the daughter, and Catherine Briggs, who were the mother, developed the MBTI based on Jung's work, aiming to make his complex ideas accessible and applicable to everyday life. Jung's theory described different ways individuals prefer to perceive the world and make decisions, and the Myers-Briggs type inventory operationalized these preferences into a questionnaire. You are going to take the questionnaire on the Focus 2 through the Focus 2 personality assessment. Next, your interests are going to provide you, the assessment is going to provide you a primary code, a secondary code, and a tertiary code. Now, your primary code will be based on the most number of activities that you indicate that you really like on the interest assessment. So what you're looking at, this hexagon here, is called, these 6 clusters, if you will, are called Holland codes, and they form the acronym RIASEC model. That's realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. So let's start with realistic. And I want to mention actually that the hexagon that you're looking at, there are approximately 11,000 careers in the United States within these 6 clusters. So when you take the interest assessment and you get a primary cluster, a secondary cluster, and a tertiary cluster, you are potentially delimiting thousands upon thousands upon thousands of occupations that you don't have to research or ever think about again. And from your 3 Holland codes, your primary, secondary, and tertiary, you can then research the careers under that code, and you can then mix the code up into as many combinations and look at the occupations underneath those codes. And by conducting research across multiple databases, you will be able to pare down your interest eventually to one. But it is going to take some work on your part, and that is part of the project. So let's start with realistic. The realistic cluster are called the doers. These folks like to work with objects and machines. They like to be outdoors. They like hands-on work, tangible work that they can look back and see they can see their efforts represented. Some of the careers in this cluster are urban sustainable agriculture, farming, athletic training, architecture, computer-aided drawing. This may be construction, technology. It could be manufacturing as well. So this is the realistic cluster. You can remember it that it's hands-on and it's active, and that's why they're called the doers. Next is the investigative cluster. These folks like to solve problems. They're organized, they're structured, they're careful. They like to analyze, investigate, evaluate. They're called the thinkers. This cluster is called the thinkers. And the types of careers that are in this cluster would be everything from anatomy and physiology to zoology. Forensic science would be in here as well. So this cluster is called the thinkers. The third cluster, artistic, is called the performers. These people are creative, expressive, very visual. They may have intuitional ability, and they really have a very high need for independence. They like to structure their own schedules and their own work. And this is called the performers because they like to do work that allows them freedom, mobility, and they like to do careers that allow them to express themselves. The occupations in this cluster would be everything from actor to writer and everything in between. The next cluster is the social cluster. These are called the helpers. These folks like to help, train, cure, heal. They're very empathetic. They like to communicate. They are often approachable and friendly and may have a warmth about them. But underneath it, they really want to help people, help society. So the helper careers are your doctors, counselors, nurses, teachers, and people who really enjoy feeling like they're making a difference in the world. The next cluster is called the enterprising cluster. This cluster is called the persuaders. So enterprising cluster is where people are very persuasive. They're influential. They enjoy bringing people around to their way of thinking. They're energetic. They're sociable, and they're often leaders. And it is by no accident that this cluster is right next to the social cluster. They really enjoy working with people. Some of these occupations are marketing, sales, managers, lawyer might be in there. Lawyer, they're persuasive. Okay, and the C, that is conventional. Conventional, these folks in this cluster are very structured, organized, very careful. They have exceptional attention to detail. They notice the little mistakes. These are called the organizers. This cluster is called the organizers. And so the careers that comprise this cluster would be accountants, insurance, actuaries. This could be military. They don't have a high need for independence. And if you notice, artistic is opposite organizers. You see the pink artistic, it's opposite the blue conventional cluster, whereas artistic people need high independence to be able to structure their work. The organizers or the conventional cluster, they are comfortable following a chain of command and they really enjoy um, following procedures and seeing things out to their natural conclusion. So these 6 clusters represent John Holland, who was a psychologist and created this model in 1959 that we're using today because it's so useful for understanding how we choose our work, how we choose our careers, comprises the Ryesack model. Okay, so next I am going to stop sharing for just a moment so I can pull up some other resources.